Hello everyone, my name is Monica Alvarez, and today I will be talking about our regionalisms, colloquialisms, and dialect, and basically discuss how to translate them to the target language and how to basically transfer the same meaning if it's even possible. Because for me, it goes beyond just like words. It relates to the culture, to the traditions and the ideologies that are ingrained in the customs of people in certain regions, right? I would like to start with a definition. In our textbook, in the section "The Dilemma of Dialect," Landers writes that dialects are that they often denotes supposedly a substandard or inferior speech pattern varying in pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, or syntax from the societally accepted norm. When I read this, I immediately thought in the different ways people speak, like even in like the same country, right? Like if we compare how people here in the U.S. speak, like in the northern states, with how we speak here in the valley, like the code switching and I don't know. There's a certain way we speak that is like normal for us, but if we speak it is in other states, they might not like understand it or even criticize us, right? I'm more familiar with dialects in Mexico since I grew up in Mexico. For instance, in the northern states, I'm from Reynosa, my family is from Monterrey. They say we speak golpeado, like they always ask us like, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "No, that's the way I speak." And if you compare it to people from the south, like people from Merida, for instance, they use this word like bomba, which is, I think it's pretty cool, right? You compare from people from the coast, Veracruz, they kind of like they pronounce the S differently, like costa, like they kind of like I don't know, it's different. And people from Mexico City, they kind of like speak like if they were like singing like una revista, like they kind of like elongate, make like longer, like in a musical kind of way. My accent actually sucks. I cannot really copy the way they pronounce it. But going back to dialects, that's why I think about, right? Going back to what Lander says, he identifies actually a problem which a lot of translators face when trying to translate like dialect, because I know I do, right, when I try to translate colloquialisms. He says that we try to convey like every inflection, every like nuance that distinguishes the dialect group. And even though like this strategy, he says that it's like it's an attempt by the translator, like it shows like the dedication to the project that he's translating. He says that it simply is like an impossible goal because like it's not gonna work. Because each dialect is like deeply steeped in the like source language, like the culture and the way people speak. So like it cannot, like it doesn't exist in the target language, right? So it cannot be done. What he suggests, like Landers gives us like a few suggestions when dealing with dialect. He says that we could kind of like hint of an orthodox way of speaking, like separating like certain letters in a word, like to make a difference, right, in the dialogue. If we're trying to convey like certain tone or way of speaking of the character. And he says that we can also kind of like try a generalized adaptation to the spoken discourse. There are few things that we can play with, kind of like to make a difference in the way like the character is like speaking, right? But basically he said that we need to keep in mind, we need to be aware that it will not be the same as the original text, because that kind of dialect, it doesn't exist, right, in the target language. So like to conclude the passage in dialect, Landers tells us that like we need to remember that dialect is always like tied geographically and culturally to a milieu that does not exist in the target language. Like I said, that substitution of an equivalent dialect, it is like foredoomed to failure. So the last advice he gives us is like when trying to translate dialect, like simply don't do it. And like most importantly, and this like it's highlighted, like do not like even attempt to like invent your own dialect in the target language, because like you will be like hated for the rest of your life. Like it's not gonna work. Well, that's the part of dialect. In regards to colloquialism and regionalism, I kind of became kind of obsessed with it when we were doing these exercises of translations with the short stories of Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Juan Rulfo, especially Juan Rulfo, since he a lot of his characters are basically he writes a lot of colloquialism and like in a rural areas, right? So I remember when I was doing Juan Rulfo's story, I used to underline the colloquial expressions because I knew I was gonna have like a difficult time like trying to translate them, because I wanted to transfer the same meaning, and I always kept wondering, how can I do it? How can I transfer the same meaning? For instance, there are phrases like I don't know, me echaste la sal, which if you kind of like translate it like literally, it is like you threw salt at me. It's like it doesn't work, right? It has the equivalent in English, which is like you jinx me or you're gonna jinx it. So it works if you use that kind of expression. But there are other phrases like se quedó a vestir santos, which like if you like, it references a woman who doesn't get married, right? But if you try to translate it like literally, like she stayed dressing saints, like it doesn't make sense. It's not gonna work. And if you use kind of like the equivalent, like there's no actual equivalent, but if you use like she became like an old maid, like it doesn't have like quite the same effect, and it's like it doesn't have like cultural relevance like in the original language, right? So that was those are some kind of like example of phrases. But anyways, in regards to colloquialism, I wanted to use one of Juan Rulfo's stories from El Llano en Llamas to analyze kind of like the colloquial expressions and regionalism, and to kind of like discuss if it worked, like if the translation works and if it has the same effect, if it transfers the same effect. I'm using Paseo del Norte, which is a story written in pure dialogue, almost pure dialogue between like a father and his son. Brief summary is that, like I said, the father and the son are talking. The son wants to go up north to the United States to work because the situation in Mexico is like peril. It's a place and after revolutionary Mexico, which like there is no money, there is no food, and he needs to take care of his family. So he asks his father to help him out. The father is a little resistant, but the son ends up going to the north anyways. He and other paisanos get attacked while crossing the river. He, even though he's shot, he manages to come back just to realize that his wife left him for a mule driver. The reason I chose this story is because, like I said, I love the way Juan Rulfo portrays his characters. It's almost written in pure dialogue, so you kind of get the feeling of the characters, like authentic voice, the rural setting, the way they speak, like it talks. I don't know, like you can really get a feeling of what it was like, and the dialect, it's like it spoke to me. So anyways, there are a few sentences that I want to point out to analyze if the translation works and if it gets transferred the same way, if it has the same effect. The first one is the father when he's asking, the son is asking the father if he can watch his family for him. And this is what the father tells him. ¿Y quién crees que soy yo? ¿Tu pilmama? Si te vas, pues hay que Dios se las ajuare con ellos. Yo ya no estoy pa' criar muchachos. Con haberte criado a ti y a tu hermana, que en paz descanse, con eso tuve de sobra. De hoy en adelante no quiero tener compromisos. Y como dice el dicho, si la campana no repica, es porque no tiene badajo. Which gets translated to, Hold on. Who do you think I am? Your wet nurse? If you go, let God take care of them. I can't raise kids anymore. Raising you and your sister, may she rest in peace, was more than enough for me. From now on, I don't want any troubles. As the saying goes, if the bell doesn't ring, it's because there's no clapper. So, if we kind of like take a look at this paragraph, like, does it have the same information? Yes. Like the register kind of like works. Yeah, it's kind of like informal, it's in dialogue. But there are some words that doesn't quite have the same effect. Like for instance, pilmama. I had to actually look it up because I didn't know what it meant. It's a word in Nahuatl, which if you break it down, like pili means hijo, and mama, the one that that carries like the babies, which means niñera or the nanny. Pilmama gets translated to wet nurse, which kind of like a nurse, like yeah, you take care of kids maybe, but it's not the same. Like I like for me, it doesn't transfer the same way, right? Pilmama, it's a Nahuatl word, which would reference like a indigenous, maybe campesino, someone that would use this kind of language. And like wet nurse, it does, for me, it doesn't have the same effect. Another paragraph that I singled out, let me see, it's the son is actually talking to father again. It's about his wife. It says, eso lo hice porque a usted nunca le pareció buena la tránsito. That's the name of the wife. Me la malorió siempre que se la truje. Y, recuérdeselo, ni siquiera volteó a verla la primera vez que vino. Mire papá, esta es la muchachita con la que me voy a coyuntar. Usted solo hablando en verso y que dice que la conocía de íntimo, como si ella fuera una mujer de la calle. Which gets translated to, I did that because you never thought Tránsito was a good woman. You ran her down every time I brought her home. And remember, you didn't even look at her the first time she came. Look, Papa, this is the girl I'm going to get hitched up with. You started making up verses saying you knew her intimately, as if she was a woman of the streets. Again, yeah, it's like this, the information is there. The translation, yeah, it kind of like it says the same thing. But if we go back to the dialect, I don't see it reflected here. The truje, the coyuntar, and those kind of words, I don't see it reflected here. And even the way it's written, like going back to what Lander said, maybe like separating like the word, like certain letters to kind of like reflect intonation or pronunciation or something. I think it's still missing something. I don't know how can it be changed, right, to reflect that, and if it's even possible. Okay, the last one, because I'm looking at time, I know I'm running out of time. It's I have a last paragraph to discuss, which is when they're getting attacked. It's the son says, ¿se acuerda de Estanislao? Él fue el que me encampanó para irnos para allá. Me dijo cómo estaba el teje y maneje del asunto. Y nos fuimos primero a México y de allí al Paso. Y estábamos pasando el río cuando nos fusilaron con los Mauseres. Me devolví porque él me dijo, sácame de aquí, paisano, no me dejes. Which gets translated to, you remember Estanislao? He's the one who got me to go up there. He told me how we could manage things, and first we went to Mexico City, and then from there to El Paso. And we were crossing the river when they shot at us with the rifles. I turned back because he said to me, get me out of here, Paul, don't leave me. Like I said, yeah, it's a good translation, it has the same information, but there are some words like encampanó para irnos para allá. Yeah, he convinced them, but I don't know if just convincing sounds the same. But the thing I had like an issue with that paisano getting translated to Paul, paisano, it's like you share like the same nationality, the same like place where you grew up. I don't know if I feel like just Paul doesn't cut it for me. But anyways, I think I ran out of time. I would like to know, what do you think about how to what I just discussed, how to translate colloquialism, dialect, if it's even possible, and just let me know what you think. Thank you so much.